I mean, as an individual, I've taken pictures of like Jerry Lorenzo for Fear of God, India Love.
India Love?
Yeah, India Love.
I love India Love.
India Love was actually with photography. It's a craft, and the only way to get better is to do it. It's really that simple. The only way to get better is just to do it. Really, I think I'd be probably the most genuine. Feel me? That's a big thing for me too. Is just like overall connection with who I'm photographing. Just genuine. I want to capture you as easy as I can.
People that watch my stuff, they were like, "Yeah, bro, you're gonna waste all your time doing that. There's no point." Da da da. But once they started seeing the money coming in, the same thing that you said, they were like, "Oh, like you said, espérate."
Yeah, literally.
So I'm gonna go into mindset. we're gonna have to wait till that leaves.
Right. But what's going on, guys? It's Mavvro, and welcome to the Overall Drip Experience podcast.
Drip the Flies in the City, aka the Young Intellectual. And today we have Mavvro on the podcast.
Yep.
As you guys know, I like to get people on the show who inspire me and in turn inspire you. Mavvro is a photographer based out of Lawrence, Massachusetts, who found the passion, stuck with it, and is now enjoying the fruits of his labor. What's going on, brother? Chilling.
Yep.
So, what was life like before photography?
To be honest, I actually asked myself that a lot because I don't know what I would do, who I would be, or where I would be if it wasn't for photography, to be completely honest. Really, it was just a whole bunch of moments, really, with not much meaning to them. Like, anything before photography, I don't really have too much of a memory of. Everything was kind of just like, together.
So growing up, was photography something you were always into, or was it something that was cultivated over time?
I wish I was the kind of person, for example, like Wiz, where he was his entire life he was always surrounded by music and stuff like that. Unfortunately, nobody in my life or nobody in my family ever has been into photography or any kind of art, even, to be honest.
Okay.
But it was something I always wanted to get into, but I couldn't share with any of my friends because none of my friends were into art or anything. All my boys were into partying, blah blah, basketball, sports.
Yeah,
I'm not a big sports guy, feel me? So it was something I always wanted to get into, but I never could because it didn't feel like I could share that with anybody. And then eventually, I think when I turned 18, right out of high school, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just buy a camera.
So at 18 years old, you seen everybody partying, you seen everybody playing basketball, and you said, "Let me go buy a camera."
Yeah.
Oh, you different.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I actually do remember back in the day, I'd say mid-2000s, that photography was a trend, actually.
Yeah.
Do you remember that era?
Of course, yeah. It was very, very cringy. I mean,
it was weird, bro. It was it was kind of like how entrepreneurship is today.
Yeah.
It was just a trend.
Yeah.
So what about photography, while it was trending, made you stick with it?
That's a good question. It really is. It was one of the things in my life that actually felt like it felt right, for once, because I tried sports. I tried partying, I tried the drugs and shit like that, and it just didn't, smoking weed. Because obviously, little shit like that, and it didn't feel like me.
It didn't feel like you.
It didn't feel like me, and then I finally grabbed photography, something that felt important. I mean,
something you can express yourself.
Yeah, and something I was passionate about.
So that's interesting. So at what age did you start? You said 18, right?
18. I wish I started sooner.
You wish you started sooner.
Yeah.
So how old are you now?
24.
18 to 24. And I'm Caribbean. I'm pretty sure you're Caribbean. You're Dominican, right?
Yeah, Dominican.
Yeah, so you're from the Caribbean as well. I'm Haitian. Shout out to the Zoes. But when you brought this idea up to your parents, what did they say? Because for me, personally, my parents are old school, and they were like, "Oh, get a 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
Go be if you're Haitian, bro, to be honest, you're either a doctor, a
nurse,
lawyer, or a lawyer."
Yeah.
Exactly. It's probably like that for the Dominicans. I'm not really sure.
Absolutely.
So when you brought it up to them, what did they say? What did your parents tell you?
I mean, my mom and even my entire family, honestly, they weren't really fucking with it. They were saying, go get an actual profession, go to school, do a 9 to 5.
They were bashing you, basically.
Of course, yeah. As they always say, eso no da dinero. Like that,
it doesn't make money.
Yeah, there's no money in that, and they fail to realize that it's not about the money. I mean, it's something that I enjoy doing.
Exactly.
I mean, as long as I can make enough to just
survive
and not be on the streets, that's all I really need. And it
That's
took a
true
long
passion.
time. Yeah, it's a true passion. It took a long time for my mom to finally see that, like probably 2 to 3 years until she finally saw money coming in. And when she saw these crazy opportunities for me coming in, that's when she's like, oh, you know what? Better. Maybe there is something,
Bro,
you know?
Doesn't that get you tight though? Because I went through the similar thing. Like I told my
Yeah.
parents that, so like I resell sneakers, I do podcasts, I do things on YouTube, I just create content. And like my dad was like, or like people that watch my stuff, they were like, yeah, bro, you're gonna waste all your time doing that. There's no point, da da da. But once they started seeing the money coming in, the same thing that you said, they were
Yeah.
like, oh. Like
Yeah.
you said, pérate.
Yeah, literally, like, go in your bed at the.
They were like, pérate.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, damn, so keep going. And
Yeah.
now they're starting to help. That's starting to help you, right?
Yeah.
They're starting to give you ideas somewhat.
And that's the thing with, like, you know, like overall with the Hispanic like households. I mean, like their evidence needs to be tangible. They need to
Exactly.
see physical money or
100%.
whatever it is for them
100%.
to actually believe in it. And it's, you know, it sucks that it is the way it is, but. Like I said, for 2 years of my mom like telling me, you know, just that, or make it a hobby, go back to school, do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, now she's my biggest supporter.
Exactly.
But it took 5 years.
It took me about a year since until they actually started seeing money. But
Yeah.
still, at the end of the day, it's like I always tell my parents, like, it's my passion. Like, why would
Yeah.
I trade my passion to live a miserable life to work for the white man? Let's be real here. That's who you're gonna be working for.
Exactly.
So yeah, so that's basically what happened to me. And the same thing that happened to me happened to you.
Yeah.
So for anybody that's getting into photography, anybody who wants to transition into photography, do you have any like tricks or tips? Like, what advice can you give them?
I know people hate hearing this, but to be honest, the best thing you can do, the best thing you can hear, especially starting out, is keep shooting.
Just
The
keep
more
shooting.
the more you do it, the better you get at it. It doesn't matter what kind of shooting you do, but it's you know, study and practice. So the more you practice it, the better you become. And really over time, another thing I would say is just find who you are, not just as a person, but also in your craft. So, you know, experiment. So if you know, you do street photography, you do portraiture, you do landscapes, whatever that may be, find whatever it is that you like the most.
What's your favorite? So what's your favorite type of photography?
For me personally, I love portraiture and I love taking pictures of people.
And
there's branches to that, but
when you say portraiture, you gotta talk to the camera. You gotta tell the audience what that is, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm lost as hell right now. What the heck is a portraiture?
So a portrait. It's actually not just photography related. A portrait is art related, so it could be a portrait that's a painting as well, or a drawing. But a portrait is ultimately a picture of a subject where the subject is a person, whether it be. It's a person. It's an image of a person. Yeah. It could be a headshot, torso, full body, but it's an image of a person. That's portraiture. And there's, you know, the different kinds of portraiture and the different kinds of you know, different branches and stuff. But I love portraiture, and for the branches, I really like, you know, I do editorials, I do fashion, and I do a lot of headshots.
I seen that.
Yeah, I do a lot of fashion.
And for somebody starting off that doesn't have a lot of money, what kind of camera would you suggest them buy? And like, what lenses are the best for portraiture?
Yeah. You know, if you asked me this question 2 or 3 years ago, I'd probably say like a little Nikon or a Canon.
I know everybody says Nikon.
But now, you know, since film photography is getting so big too and getting so popular, I probably recommend like a film camera, only because you could probably get a point and shoot film camera for like $40 and get a box of film for 20. So $60. But you know, with film you can't take unlimited, you know, thousands of pictures.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if you're going digital, probably like, you know, a little Nikon or a Rebel T series or Canon. And then for lenses, Nifty 50. If you guys know about that, you know, if you know, you know. But Nifty 50 is super cheap and it's a good place starter.
Oh. And I want to transition back into your photography. So, your guest. Who was, I mean, you probably won't answer this question, but who was your favorite person to shoot, and or who was like your biggest guest, your biggest shot, your biggest client, or whatever you want to call it?
Client, I mean, as an individual, I've taken pictures of like Jerry Lorenzo for Fear of God, India Love.
India Love?
Yeah, India Love.
I love
She
India
didn't.
Love.
India Love was actually, I very much dislike her. There's a whole story about
You
her. But
dislike
yeah,
India
Love is a. Am I allowed to say? You know what?
I
I don't like talking bad about people, but India Love is a character. She's very difficult.
Person.
She's difficult. She's very difficult.
I mean, bro, like I said, it's the overall Drip Experience podcast. You can be as honest as you want, blunt as you want.
Well, I mean, overall, yeah, she She's just very rude. As light,
As light as you can.
As light as I can put it. She's very, very rude. She didn't let anybody else take a picture of her, and then the only reason she let me take a picture of her was actually because she liked my shoes. I had some CDG Chucks on, and she looked down. Initially I asked her, "Oh, can I take your photograph?" And she immediately, without hesitation, she's like, "No." I was like, "I bet." So then I just walked away. Got me like, oh, it's not that serious. And then she kind of like looked down at my shoes, and she was like, "Oh, I like your shoes." I was like, "All right, thanks." Like whatever, because like you kind of just like that quick.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "I bet one picture."
So she's like bougie kind of.
Yeah, she's extremely bougie because she had her own photographer with her. This is at ComplexCon, by the way. I was at ComplexCon LA. Yeah, 2018. This is where I met all these crazy.
Year.
Word?
I was gonna go this year before COVID, but
no, yeah, COVID just ended everything, but it's all good. But yeah, so she let me take that one picture, and then mind you, she had her own personal photographer like the day of, following her around, doing all this thing, and I can just tell that he's a man. Like he was an amateur. I mean, he didn't really know what he was doing, but I got that one picture of her, and she liked it. She ended up putting it on her Instagram and Twitter, but she didn't tag me on any of it, and it took me like a whole bunch of like my friends and like poking at her on Twitter for like me to be on it, and she finally tagged me, but at that point like
it was too late.
Yeah, it was too late.
Damn.
But yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but other than that, I haven't really shot any individual that's really big. I've had like big clients, but like companies and stuff.
Jerry Lorenzo.
Yeah.
Wow. Jerry. God.
Yeah.
How are you rocking with the clothing, and how are you rocking with the sneakers?
Fear of God.
Be honest. You don't rock with it?
I mean, I used to. It just became stale, bro, over time. It was kind of just like recycling the same thing over and over again.
Repeating. Yeah. How about the sneakers, though? The Nike collaboration.
I fuck with the new Nikes. They're not for me personally. I mean, it's the kind of shoe that I don't think I'd wear, but I do appreciate.
You appreciate the concept.
Absolutely.
That's dope.
Yeah, definitely.
So, there's a question I like to ask all of my guests, and the question is, what was your greatest failure? And when I ask you this question, I'm not talking about your greatest L as in loss. I'm talking about your greatest L as in lesson. So what was your greatest lesson that you keep with you till this day, that drives you to keep going forward, that pushes you over the edge to keep doing what you do?
I would say my biggest failure ever was probably beating myself up and being so hard on myself. I mean, that's a big problem that I feel like a lot of artists have. I live by the words that every artist's biggest enemy is themselves.
Yeah, their biggest critic.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a couple times where I've had, potentially big opportunities for myself, and I didn't go for it because I was too busy doubting myself or too busy, like just beating myself up over something small that happened prior to it. So
what did you do, and what did it teach? Like, what did it teach you, and what did you do to overcome that?
It taught me to keep going. Feel me? It taught me to just like whatever it is that happens or whatever L I take, it's all temporary. So even though this certain situation didn't go right, the next one could. Get me? So just because something didn't go right now doesn't mean it's gonna keep going bad later. So it definitely taught me to keep going.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Yeah,
Right.
that's dope.
Thank you.
Mindset. So I'm gonna go into mindset. we're gonna have to wait till that.
Right. But what?
All right. So mindset, bro. So like what I like to preach as well is positivity on my channel, on my pages, everything about my brand. It's just positivity. So without positivity, you basically can't do anything. In your life, how important is a positive mindset? How important is that to you? Extremely
important, because if you're not positive, it even shows in your work. I mean, it shows on how you communicate. It shows everything about it. And that's just something that I always talk about with my models as well, because little things like that, like positivity and confidence.
It shows.
Yeah, it shows. I mean, overall, it always shows. And especially, since my main source of photography is like portraiture, little things like that, even if you don't really think about it, it definitely shows.
And do you believe that you need this mindset to cultivate the life you want?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because you need to be positive to continue, get me?
With
and
anything,
the same thing.
not
with
just,
anything, yeah.
Not just portraiture.
Yeah. But, just with anything in life, you got to be positive, get me? Because otherwise, like, I'm also a firm believer of manifestation, get me? So it's like, if you're always thinking negatively, bro, like, that energy comes back to you, bro.
So you're going to attract.
Yeah.
100%. without giving the audience too much, because I know you're a photographer. I know you have a little.
I'm not a photographer. If you check my bio, it actually says I'm not a photographer. Not yet.
You're not a photographer, but you're a photographer.
Yeah.
But without giving the audience too much, give them a little glimpse. Tell us and explain to us a little bit about your process with portraiture.
Okay. I mean, I do other kinds of photography as well. Like I do street photography. Landscapes ain't really my thing, but
So,
a lot of street, but mainly portraiture.
So give them like a little bit about your process the thing that you enjoy the most, the one that you enjoy the most.
Okay.
Which is portraiture. So.
No, yeah, definitely portraiture. My process, I have different forms, but really I spend a lot of time on Instagram, not to just mindlessly scroll, but I definitely spend a lot of time on Instagram looking for potentially people that I can photograph, people who I find, either beautiful, because it's not always about beauty. Sometimes it's just the fact that you look very, very distinct. You know what I mean? Because individuality is a huge thing.
Huge thing in photography.
Yeah, but a huge thing.
Individuality.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, sometimes it's not even about like individuality physically. Sometimes it's really about even personality, because like I said, things like personality and mentality, it shows, especially when you're photographing people. So I've had times where like people thought that they weren't very photogenic, and they actually weren't, but because of who they are and their personality,
it came out
and it came out beautiful. I mean, that's something I always try to do with portraiture, is ultimately take a picture of who you are. And that's actually, fun fact, I did bring my camera today because I would like to photograph you if you're okay with that.
Photograph me?
Yeah, you.
Why you trying to photograph me?
For the same reason I like to photograph anybody, because I would like to physically show you at least a piece of who you are, and that's my goal.
All right, that's dope.
Yeah.
I rock with that. I'm passenger the flash in the city, so it ain't gonna be hard.
I mean, you're right.
All right. My next question is so that was actually funny. So, say I want portraiture done or whatever, and I need a photographer, and I call you or whatever. I'm like, yo, Mavvro, I want to get some pictures done. What am I getting from you that I'm not gonna get from any other photographer, any other mojo out there? What do you bring into the table to attract me as a consumer or customer?
I mean, the fact that you contacted me in general kind of speaks for itself, get me? So it's like,
you're right. But what if? Hold on. But what if somebody recommended, or I don't know any photographers? You're the only one I know.
Sheesh. Damn.
What are you gonna what is gonna set your work apart from somebody else's?
Really, I think I'd be probably the most genuine. Feel me? That's a big thing for me too. Is just like overall connection with who I'm photographing. Just genuine. I want to capture you as easy as I can. I'm easy to work with. I'm a people person, but when it comes to the actual craft itself, I think the craft speaks for itself. I can't English today. Jeez.
It's all good, bro. You good? I feel that. So you're saying you think your craft speaks for itself?
I think so. Yeah.
I agree. That's kind of why you're on this show.
No.
You didn't reach out to me. I reached out to you.
Thank you. Nah, it's an honor, man. It's an honor to be here.
Your photography is pretty fire. I'm not gonna lie, bro.
It's
one of the top ones I've seen in the city, and there's a good amount of photographers here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are you doing anything for the community?
Yeah, I try to give back as much as I can. I've always had a love-hate relationship with the city, to be completely honest.
Why is that? It's hard to get support, right?
Yeah, but it's not even it's not even about that, because like there's this really big misconception that just because you're from a city, the city has to support you. That's not true at all.
100%.
I feel like support and just overall any kind of positivity you kind of have to earn. Get me? So it's like, why should we support you? And I'm very, very grateful for the fact that this city at this point does support me. But I don't know. There's a lot of things about the people here that I just don't. I'm not really fucking with it. I don't rock with it. And I think it's mostly just the mentality. Because, for example, like, a big thing, like, half of my family lives here, and they're very, very close-minded when it comes to everything. And it's something that I've noticed, too, with this city. And they're very, very nosy. It's just stuff like that. I'm not...
You just don't rock with it.
Yeah, bro. I'm not about that.
I kind of feel you on you do have to earn support.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what I notice is that a lot of people in this city, not to bash it, but like they support because they see other people supporting.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's what I don't rock with.
Yeah.
So for example, they could rock with you. They could fuck with everything you do. But this person's not co-signing you. So they're like, nah, I'm good. Once this person posts you, say somebody bigger, then they're going to hop on the boat and repost you.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily me earning support. That's me getting a co-sign from somebody.
Yeah.
That's what I don't rock with the city.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and there's
That's
a lot of that.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, like Wiz Dakota, he's a big name in the city.
Yep.
And once I
Shout out Wiz.
Shout out to Wiz Dakota, the Wizard. Go stream his new album.
Facts.
It's fire. But once he reposted something like an interview of mine, literally everybody reposted it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was, in my opinion, I don't think that was really genuine. I think it was just because of who he is.
Because of the fact that because Wiz supports it now.
Because of Wiz supported, let me hop on it because he's on it.
Yeah.
Because I knew the interview was good. I knew it was a fire interview, but it's like, I feel like without the cosign, I don't know how it would have went.
It wouldn't have gotten as much.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I'm trying to say.
Word.
But in terms of getting back to the community,
yeah,
I am hosting the Drip Back. I don't know if you know about what the Drip Back is.
Nah.
So basically, I'll tell you about it. So basically, I'm collecting donations from everybody. I gave $100 myself to the cause. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to gather up about $1,000 so I can go give back to a local business because of COVID. You know how like some businesses got affected?
Yeah.
So my goal is literally to raise about $1,000 to $2,000, go to local business, and I'm gonna let you guys choose. And on top of that, with your $5 donation, it's a minimum of $5. On top of that, you get a raffle ticket and you can win some Yeezys.
Okay.
So there's some incentive there for you guys. So so far in 6 days, I raised over 600.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
So I have about 28 donations or 26 donations. I'm not sure.
Well, it's about to be 27 if anything. Yeah.
And yeah, so I have about $600, and we're trying to get to the goal by like the end of next week.
Okay. That's definitely doable though.
They can even surpass the goal.
Yeah.
Literally, people have just been contacting me, yo, bro. So if you do want to hit me up and you do want to send a donation for Lawrence, for the city, look at the clock tower.
Yeah.
The Instagram's at BastienDRԻP, the flyest in the city. But
the
it's
flyest, the flyest in the city.
Yeah. And the last, this isn't the last question, but what gems do you want to leave the audience with? Let's give the audience some gems and let's talk to the camera.
What do you mean gems?
Gems, like, all right, so gems in terms of like, what, like, what do you want, like, what piece of you, like, what do you want to leave the audience with? Like, just gems in general, like, just like advice, information.
Okay. No, I feel you. Going back to what I said earlier is don't stop. Feel me? Definitely don't stop. Trust the process. That's something that actually another big artist from here, shout out to Alyssa. I don't know if you know Alyssa at The Example.
Oh, Alyssa
Salas. Yeah, she's another Lawrence artist. Right now she's out there in New York, but she's, you know, born and raised in, I'm pretty sure she's born and raised in Lawrence. But she taught me a huge thing that always stuck with me was trust the process. That means just, even though things might not be good right now, let me just keep it going and be positive and just be as positive as you can, because that's going to show and that's going to attract positive things to you. But definitely keep going, but don't stop. And especially with something like photography and portraiture. You know, say it again. Yeah, portraiture. Yeah. Or you could just say portraits and make it easier. Yeah. But with photography, you know, it's a craft, and the only way to get better is to do it. It's really that simple. The only way to get better is just to do it.
And can you tell the audience about the difference between digital cameras and like film cameras?
And film cameras?
You have a film camera in here, right?
Yeah.
Can you show it to the audience?
So this is a Mamiya RB67. It's from 1962. Well, this model's from 1962.
Oh. You just like turn it around so they can see it.
Yeah, of course. And so you can see like there's no screen or nothing. And it's also a waist level viewfinder. So I don't know if you know, like on a digital camera, like the camera we're recording with, most cameras, you hold it up to your face to eye level to take the picture. This is a waist level, so for me to see what I'm actually taking a photograph of, the top opens up and I hold it and I look down instead of eye level.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, let me look in there, bro.
Yeah, see, so you can see.
What the heck?
And
that's crazy.
It's mirrored, so if you go left, it goes right. If you go right, it goes left. Yeah, this is an old film camera.
And that's from what, 1962?
1962. Yeah.
And how'd you acquire that?
To be honest, yeah, this guy had a whole bunch of old cameras because he was like actually a war veteran. He had this eBay account with a whole bunch of different cameras, and he actually had this for a pretty good price, so I picked it up and kind of taught myself how to do that. Yeah. I mean, I shot 35mm film before this. 35mm film is usually much smaller cameras, so this is the next step up. Yeah.
And you do so do you do all your shoots with that, or you do mostly shoots?
Most of my shoots are with this. For the first couple years, I shot only digital, and then as I progressed with my photography and overall with my skill, I got into film photography.
I mean, I don't know if you said it, but what's the difference in terms of like the actual quality of the picture?
To be honest, I mean that's a big argument, but in my opinion, for film at least, film is actually a lot better, especially when it comes to tones, gradients, and overall colors. Like digital would never ever be able to recreate the colors that film can. But to answer your question, digital is like a digital image, so there's sensors, there's a whole bunch of moving parts. Film is a physical roll of film, so it's actual paper, and the paper gets there's a paper in the back, like the actual roll of film, and it gets exposed to the light, and then there's certain chemicals in that roll of film that change depending on how much light hits it. So it's actual physical paper. So with this camera, one roll takes 10 pictures. That's it. That's 10.
That's it?
Yeah, as opposed to...
It's a lot of money, bro.
It is a lot of money, but it's definitely worth it. Yeah, it adds up. But, with a digital camera, I could just take 1 million and then pick out the best one. With film, you got to slow down and...
So you have to know what you're doing, basically.
Absolutely.
You can't just get a freaking film camera and just...
Yeah,
you got to be like...
Because you're going to be spending thousands of dollars, because film is expensive, too. Very, very expensive. So, like, one roll portrait 400 for medium format is probably like $12. So you're paying $12 for 10 images. That's it.
So, how can the people find you? How can they find you? Mavvro, the photographer. Well, Mavvro, I'm not a photographer.
I'm not a photographer, not yet. Yeah, not yet. There's a whole thing about that too, but not a photographer yet. But you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, my website, mavvrostudios.com. And
what's your Instagram?
That's about it. It's all the same. At Mavvro. Twitter is at Mavvro. Mavvro.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And you said mavvrostudios.com. That's your website?
Yeah.
And what's the idea? So what does Mavvro mean? Is that just your name?
No. My real name is Brian. Brian Fernandez.
Oh, I thought your name was Mavvro.
No. Yeah, Brian. But I don't go by Brian.
But like, what's the philosophy behind Mavvro?
Mavvro. So long story short, Mavvro with one V is actually it's a Greek word, and it actually means dark-skinned person or just dark object. Mm-hmm. And the word came from exactly that. And I still am very much into Greek philosophy, and I used to be, studying that in college. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. Mavvro means dark-skinned person or dark-skinned object. And back in the day, like in the Roman and Greek times, whenever they had a dark-skinned person visitor, whether it be a merchant, a tradesman, someone that was rich or poor, a dark-skinned person was always treated like a king. Doesn't matter who it was. And it just came back to like these times now, especially with everything going on, like the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I just wish we can have, empower things like that instead of like demeaning the whole black race. Because if you have melanin now, it's like
the opposite.
Yeah, and I don't even want to get into that because I get very, very emotional when it comes to the whole Black Lives Matter movement,
100%,
man.
Bro, 100%.
But it's just getting wild out there.
I actually did an episode on it, but 100%.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna transition into a little game. You ready for that?
I bet.
The game is it's a game I like to call Say That. So what it basically is, I'm gonna say a phrase or a word, and you're gonna say the first thing that comes to your mind, but you can't repeat the word. You know what I'm saying?
I can't repeat it as I keep going.
Like you can't repeat the same answer.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say a phrase or a word, and you say the first word that comes to your mind.
Okay.
So basically, you're not thinking, you're just saying.
Okay.
Once you hear the word, you tell me what you think about it.
All right.
All right.
Yep.
Solid. All right. So the first word is Lawrence.
Community.
Photography.
Skill.
Mavvro.
I'm not a photographer.
Mindset.
Positive.
Goals.
Unknown.
Entrepreneurship.
Blank. You got me on that one.
Entrepreneurship. You gotta say something, bro. There's no blank.
Progression. That's what I think of.
Copy. BastienDRÜIP.
BastienDRÜIP. Flies in the city.
And the overall Drip Experience podcast.
Amazing. An honor.
Rock with that.
Yep.
Shout out to you guys.
Yep.
Stay tuned. Episode dropping soon. We out.
You're To go?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a Mavvro RB67. The RB in the 67 stands for rotating back. So for example, like with most cameras, you know how if you take a picture this way, it's landscape. If you flip the camera, it's portrait. With this camera, obviously because it's so goddamn big and the viewfinder is on the top, you're not gonna flip it this way.
Exactly.
So the film goes in the back, and instead of rotating the camera, you just rotate the back.
That's fire.
Yeah, and that's what RB stands for.
That's fire.
Yeah, so when the film comes in here, the film is going to be this way. If I wanted to picture portrait, I just rotate it and now it's this way. But I'm going to load it and then we'll get ready
Alright,
in a
great.
second.
That's
So
fire.
this is medium format, so it's a little bigger than like the average 35. 3, 2, 1. We got a little closer. Alright, brother. 3, 2, 1. Hey, stand up for me. And take a step closer to me. Right there. Yeah, I like that. That pose. I see that you're somebody that uses your hands a lot.
Yeah. I'm black, bro. I'm animated.
I'm black. Yeah, you are very animating. I mean, that's a big thing when it comes to portraits too. You know, like I have to pay attention to your little gestures. You give me little things. I'm trying to take pictures of who you are. That's definitely who you are. Right there. Let me just have you rotate a little bit.
This way.
Other way.
This way.
Yeah, perfect. All right, brother. 3, 2, 1. Looking away, and I'm gonna have you looking at me. I'm gonna have you look away first. Let's do. Look at. Follow my hand. Stay right there. Feet 250. Back up a bit. 3, 2, 1. You look directly at me. And 3, 2, 1. Alright, bro. 3, 2, 1. Might be turn. Don't move.